Sandboxing as a technology concept is about isolating processes so that they can't interact with one another. Now, I want to give you an example, and then I'm going to show you this in action. Now, in this example, we're looking at the same diagram of how IIS is put together that we saw at the start of the course. And here's the key thing I want to show you. Towards the top right of this diagram, we have an application pool. It has its own worker process, w3wp.exe. Now, this application pool is isolated on a site-by-site basis. Every time you create a website in IIS, you get your own app pool. Now, what that means is that when you have one website, you have one app pool. If you create another website, you get a separate pool. These pools are sandboxed, so you get two separate w3wp.exe processes, and one process cannot interact with the other. Everything that executes within that process has isolation from the other processes. You add another website, you get yet another application pool, another website again, and another app pool. So you see how this works. We end up getting all of these isolated processes. And this is why we can have situations such as shared hosting. One hosting provider that might have hundreds or even thousands of websites running on the same logical operating system and the same logical web server, yet they're all isolated to within their own application pools. So they're sandboxed. Often I've heard people say, isn't it a security risk to run multiple different sites, particularly sites that people can sign up for very cheaply online, on the same server? And this is exactly why we have sandboxing, to keep these processes separate. Now, I can show you exactly what this looks like in IIS. So let me jump over and actually show you the processes running on my machine, and then we'll start some websites and see what happens. On the left side of the screen, I have a browser window open. It has got a local version of the Hack Yourself First website. You can see that I've got that there in the URL, local dot. Now, this website isn't currently running. I loaded it a little bit earlier on. On the right-hand side of the screen, you can see Resource Monitor. And I've scrolled it down to the bottom of the processes, and we have no w3wp.exe processes presently running. Now, if I go and reload this website and it makes a request to IIS, what you'll see in just a moment is a w3wp.exe process. So there it is, it's now running. So we've seen that process fire up in order to isolate the app pool when the website starts. Now let's do this, because what I really want to show you here is the sandboxing. If I go over to my other browser tab here, I have a local version of Have I Been Pwned, the website that I manage which aggregates data breaches. Now that's also local and it's also not running. Let's now hit reload in order to make another request to that site. Now we'll watch the resource monitor, and there's another w3wp.exe process. So we've now got two of them running. Each website has fired off its own process. Now they exist on my local instance of IIS as separate websites which by default have separate app pools. So what's happening in process in this Have I Been Pwned site cannot access the sandboxed process that's happening inside the Hack Yourself First site. Now likewise, we can kill these processes off one by one simply by stopping the app pool. So if I jump over to IIS and I choose Hack Yourself First, and I stop the app pool, we'll see one of those w3wp.exe processes go into a terminated status. So here it is, it's now gone light grey and it says terminated. So this is just a very simple illustration of sandboxing. Every one of those app pools that you see there on the left of the screen has its own worker process, totally independently of all the others. It keeps the website in that sandbox. And certainly other web server stacks have the same implementation. This logical separation of process with its own code running in its own process and not able to interact with the other ones. Now, as an ethical hacker, this is the sort of thing that you want to be looking for. A perfect example of this is that this concept was introduced in iOS 7. We were sharing app pools in iOS 6 and earlier. So if you're looking around for potential vulnerabilities, finding a server still running on iOS 6, even though, as we just established, it is out of support, that would be a significant finding because it lacks these sorts of security controls. Understanding that this is how web servers operate, and these are the benefits that you get from using modern-day web servers such as iOS 7 and above, is a really important part of managing your environment. So that's managing and hardening web servers. Let's go and summarize the module.